Welcome back. In our series Stressed, we've already talked about emotional stress, we've talked about hectic stress, and today we're going to talk about relational stress. Before I get to the definition, here's the question in your mind today. Are you facing a conflict with someone right now? I want you to be thinking about a person and a situation that you maybe just do not feel like you're at peace with someone. You've had an argument, maybe you're harboring some resentment, whatever it is. Relational stress is something that we all deal with. And here's what makes relational stress so hard. We can only do our part. When we're in relationship with someone else, we have to trust their intentions, their motivations, their ability to be healthy. That can be really hard because no matter what we do to try to promote peace, they may not be ready for that. So today what I want to do, ladies, is unpack this relational stress through the story of Abigail. I want to spend a lot of our time there because the story of Abigail, how she processes through a really tense situation, is so informative for us. So before we get to her story and unpack some insights from that, here's our definition. Relational stress comes from our interactions with others, whether at work, home, or with friends. We have to navigate the feelings and expectations of those who may be toxic, demanding, or selfish. So there you have it, right? We can all relate to that, whether it's in our work life or in our home with our kids or our spouse, sometimes with friends, people at church. It can be really hard to navigate relationships. Relational stress is real. I want to get right to Abigail's story, though, so we can learn from her. She found herself in a tough spot, playing the peacemaker between her selfish husband and the future king. Her bravery to intervene subdued David's rage and spared her husband's life. So, are you intrigued yet? Let's get right to the story because there's a lot to read. There was a wealthy man from Moan who owned property near the town of Carmel. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and it was sheep shearing time. This man's name was Nabal, and his wife Abigail, who was a sensible and beautiful woman. But Nabal, a descendant of Caleb, here we go, was crude and meaning in all of his dealings. When David heard that Nabal was shearing his sheep, he sent 10 of his young men to Carmel with this message for Nabal: Peace and prosperity to you, your family, and everything you own. I'm told that it's sheep shearing time. While your shepherds stayed among us near Carmel, we never harmed them, never stole anything from them. Ask your men, and they will tell you that it's true. So would you be kind to us, since we have come at a time of celebration? Please share any provisions you might have on hand with us and with your friend David. Now, we're going to start to get a picture of Nabal here. David's young men gave this message to Nabal in David's name, and they waited for a reply. Who is this fellow David? Nabal sneered at the young men. Who does the son of Jesse think he is? There are lots of servants these days who run away from their masters. Should I take my bread and my water and my meat that I've slaughtered from my shears and give it to a band of outlaws who come from who knows where? So Nabal was a very wealthy man. He has all these sheep, all these people, and David is on the run from King Saul at this point. King Saul's trying to kill him because he's jealous of him and he knows he's the future king. And so Nabal acts like David is like some outlaw. He knows who he is. He even says he's the son of Jesse, but Nabal has no interest in being generous here. And so even though David came, his messengers came with this beautiful thing: peace and greetings. I hope you're well. Please know we've been living outside of your land and around your shepherds and your sheep. They could have stolen, they could have killed the sheep to eat them, but instead they actually worked more like protectors. And so they come to Nabal saying, do you have any supplies you could give us? And for Nabal to act like he doesn't know who David is, call him an outlaw, like he's some troublemaker, was just hugely disrespectful. So here's what happens. One of Nabal's servants went to Abigail and told her, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but he screamed insults at them. These men have been very good to us, and we never suffered any harm from them. Nothing was stolen from us the whole time they were with us. In fact, day and night, they were like a wall of protection to us and the sheep. You need to know this and figure out what to do, for there is going to be trouble for our master and his whole family. He's so ill-tempered that no one can even talk to him. So isn't this interesting in this time and culture to go to the wife, to go to a woman and say, you're going to have to do something because our master, the guy in charge, is not a healthy person. He's toxic. He's mean. He's yelling insults to the future king of Israel. And I'm telling you, David and his men are going to kill us all. So here's Abigail. Talk about being in relational stress. Let's look at what she does. Abigail wastes no time. She quickly gathered all the stuff: loaves of bread, wineskins, sheep that had been slaughtered, roasted grain, raisins, fig cakes. She packed them on donkeys and said to her servants, "Go on ahead. I'll follow you shortly." But she didn't tell her husband Nabal what she was about to do. So we're already starting to see in Abigail's story that she took action. She could see that this was a conflict that could go horribly wrong. She knows that her husband's not a healthy person and she needs to go and make peace. So she quickly puts together the food and the items and she heads out, which, you guys, listen, for Abigail, this was a very brave thing to do, to go and to talk to a man, number one, but number two, the future king of Israel. So let's look at what Abigail does. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed low before him. She fell at his feet and said, "I accept all blame in this matter, my lord. Please listen to what I have to say. I know Nabal is a wicked and ill-tempered man. Please don't pay any attention to him. He's a fool, just as his name suggests. Now, my lord, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, since the Lord has kept you from murdering and taking vengeance into your own hands, let all your enemies and those who try to harm you be cursed. When the Lord has done all he promised and has made you leader of Israel, don't let this be a blemish on your record. Then your conscience won't have to bear the staggering burden of needless bloodshed and vengeance." Abigail, first of all, in her relational stress, goes with the posture of peace and takes action, goes to the future king of Israel and says to David, "Hey, David, I know you're mad. I know that Nabal hurt you. He's disrespected you. You have every right to kill, to steal, to do whatever you want to do with this guy. But I'm asking you." Abigail appeals to David, to his heart, to his character, to the hand of God that's been on his life, to the promises that God has for him as the future king, to not let this conflict be something that he gives in to temporary vengeance, right? That might satisfy him for a moment, but have a lasting impact on him, something that, kind of is seared in his conscience, something that he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. That she says, don't fall for it. Don't be like Nabal. Be better than that. And ladies, I think that's what we need to think about when we're faced with conflict, especially in the conflicts where we feel like we've been wronged, where someone has gossiped or hurt us or just had bad intentions toward us, that even in those moments, God would call us to something else. That instead of the justifying actions and saying, "I'm going to do to you what you did to me," that we have a posture of humility. How Abigail came to David and she took responsibility for Nabal's bad actions and bad words. She didn't have to do that. But Abigail was willing to take the brunt. She was willing to take the responsibility in order for peace to happen. And the beautiful thing about the story is David doesn't kill Nabal. He doesn't give in to his vengeance. And there is peace. And it was because of what Abigail chose to do, to be brave in a moment of conflict and to say, let's not go about it this way. Let's remember who we are. And ladies, I think for us, that's why the antidote to our relational stress needs to be peace. Instead of claiming your right to having it your way, seek to understand and be gracious. This takes bravery. Just like Abigail, it takes bravery for us to say, "You know what? My feelings are hurt. This person's wronged me. But because I love God and I want to honor him with every part of me, I can still say, you know what? Instead of clinging to my right to vengeance or justified in my hurt feelings and hating that person or being angry with them, I can still lay that right down. I can still say, you know what, even though you hurt me, I can still come to you hoping for peace, hoping for healing, hoping for forgiveness." That's what we're called to do. In fact, I want us to look at Romans 12. It says, "Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see that you are honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone." Ladies, like I said at the beginning, relational stress is especially complicated because we can only do our part. We can't make somebody else be healthy. We can't make somebody else own their part of the problem. But we can choose to be promoters of peace. We can choose to be honorable even when our feelings are hurt. And so that's why I want to unpack then, what does it look like to be a peacemaker despite the situation and what the other person does? How do we treat people honorably? How do we do all that we can to make peace? Well, the first P of peacemaking is prepare your perspective. Before you go into a conflict or have a conversation with someone or confront them about something, make sure that you've prepared your own heart, that you know how you're feeling, you know why you're feeling it. You've prayed for you to understand where you were wrong. Prepare your heart for the other person and maybe where they're coming from. Maybe they're in a time of stress. Maybe they were raised in a home where they just didn't have any skills for conflict or healthy communication. That your heart is tender towards the person, tender towards the idea of, I want to come to this person hoping for peace, not for vengeance, not to just go and say and lash out and to say all the things that you want to say, because in a moment that might make you feel better. Oh, the next thing that takes a lot of bravery, ladies, is we have to have the posture of listening. That when we come into that conversation with someone that we're in conflict with, that we're not just concerned about our own perspective, we're ready to listen to theirs. Because we might learn some things. I have a perspective that I want heard. You have a perspective that needs to be heard. And then the last thing is that we come into that conflict with a desire to produce solutions. How did we get here? How did we go wrong? What can we both own from this? And how can we both work to not let this happen again in the future? So, ladies, I want to come back to this question. Are you facing a conflict with someone right now? How do you need to look at that situation with the 3 P's of peacemaking in mind? I know that relationship stress is hard. I know that it might feel like I have a right to be hurt. I have a right to hang on to this and to be resentful. But ladies, we're called to something bigger. We're called to be honorable in our actions and the way we use our words. And we are called to do whatever we can to make peace. And the way that we do that is we prepare our perspective, that we keep our heart tender towards the other person, that we're humble enough to know that we're not perfect and there's things we could have done differently, that we have a posture to listen to the other person's perspective, and that we have a heart to say, how do we work toward health moving forward, that we produce some helpful solutions. And ladies, when we can do that, when we can kind of harness that inner Abigail that took action and was brave and didn't just carry on in our resentment and anger towards someone, and really be promoters of peace, relationship stress doesn't have to rule our lives.